whether the covering the models is very important or not. But I think, from a practical perspective, and if you have to do the interview, you need to know all this content. So let's go back to the point where you have any questions. Do you have any questions for me? Do you have any questions for me, Errol? Do you want me to go through any of the models that we have covered yesterday? So you are thorough so far with all the models that we have covered, right? Can I ask you some questions then, just to make sure? Okay, take your time. I'm here. Let me know, Hiral, when you're ready. Okay. Okay, Hiral. So can you tell me which model has iterations in it? I'm repeating the question. Which model has iterations in it? Yesterday we discussed about waterfall model. We discussed about V model. We discussed about iterative model, RAD model. So which model has iterations in it? Do you remember? Yes, that's correct. Iterative model has iterations in it. Now, will iterative model have all the requirements ready by the time you start testing? No, partial requirements. And RAD model, okay, in RAD model, is it for large project or is it for small projects? Okay, RAD model is for large projects. That's correct. Spiral model, is it for large or small projects? Spiral model, is it for large or small projects? Don't worry. I mean, my only point here is to make sure that if I need to cover any topics, that I'll cover again. Spiral model is for large projects. It's not for small projects. So let me do a refresh of all the models again, and we will wind up with the models again. Okay. Let me go back to yesterday's content, and feel free to stop me wherever you have any questions. Requirements gathering will happen for large and small, medium, for any type of projects. We will always capture requirements. So it's like, agar sorry, I'm using the word, but if you want to set up a business, okay, you need to have some requirements. You want it to set up such a way that it's based on your requirements. So without requirements, there won't be any project. Waterfall is the basic thing. It is, just like waterfall, it will go in step-by-step sequential order. In iterative model, you don't have all the requirements. You only have partial requirements. But you repeat multiple iterations until you have a final product. If the product is not ready by one iteration, then it's gonna go again, just like spiral model. So what's the point of iterative model is, this is to make sure we go in the right direction. The customer will be able to see the application well in advance. That's the reason we do iterative model. Okay, let me mute this one here. In V model, so answer me this question. In V model, when do we write our test cases? When requirements analysis is done, do we write our test cases or not in V model? Do we write test cases for V model while we capture the requirements or not, is my question. So see, as you can see, do you want me to wait for a minute? Okay. So we will write test cases while we capture requirements in V model. Here we write user acceptance test cases the moment we capture requirements. The moment we capture design requirements, system requirements, we write system test cases. When the modules are designed or little more technical information is available, that's when we write our integrated test cases. When the coding is being done, yep, step by step, we'll do step by step, but as soon as we have information, we'll start creating our test plan. So test plan will start early in V model. And while coding is done, the developers will create their unit test cases. Now testing won't start yet. The moment coding is complete, that's when you test unit test, integration test, because we already wrote the test cases. We need to execute them, then system test cases, then user acceptance test cases. So we'll go step by step, just like a V shape. Okay. In interview, they will ask you these questions. In spiral model, okay, we start with the initial review, just like requirements gathering. We capture all the requirements in a review stage. Then we analyze the risk, see if it's possible or not. Then a prototype is developed. Prototype means a half finished product. The application won't be 100% complete. You will have a web page. You remember yesterday we wrote some HTML page, just like that simple page, that's an half product. There's nothing there. So that's a prototype. In that, if I keep on adding content, that becomes a web page. So we will have multiple prototypes. We will check if this is what we want, then we create another prototype. Like that, it goes in a spiral fashion until you have a final product. By doing this, you can make sure the budget you spent on this project is totally covered, because you will have a finished product by the end of the spiral. As you can see in the last spiral, this one here, you have design, detailed design here, coding, unit testing, integration testing, acceptance testing, and then to the final production area. Before that, we are only writing requirements and generating the prototypes. We are not even coding yet. Prototype can be a picture, just like the wireframe which I have shown you, can also be an actual product itself, can be anything. Okay, so you need to remember this. Spiral model is only useful for large complex projects, very big projects like $1 million projects. RAD model. Now, what is the advantage of RAD model? We get everybody together, discuss everything, capture all the requirements. That's when we start our testing. Okay, before first planning is done, but in the sessions you will grind and get final product of all the requirements. That's when you continue with the testing until you have a final product. Today's class, I'm going to start with prototyping model. So in spiral model, we talked about prototypes. In prototyping model, we'll make a prototype. So what is the difference? This can be used for small projects. Okay, so depending on, think like this. If you know many retail stores like Walmart, Target, any other retail stores, okay, small dollar stores. So each one has its own size. Walmart is very big. In that you can find any product. So they organize according to their size. They get as much, different kinds of items. If you go to dollar store, you will have only certain content which is in that price range, but he will arrange according to his size. So he is using a different type of model. Walmart is using a different type of model to sell his products. Similarly, a IT company uses the model, SDLC model, based on its size, its needs, and all the different types of products that he can do. The environment means that what type of model do I need to use to make the projects easy and successful. That is the goal. Now, prototyping model is a working model that is functionally equivalent to a component of a product. If you look in manufacturing industry, what they do is they will design a shape. For example, car seat is being designed. They are trying to create a new car seat. What they do, they build the seat. They try to test it in different ways. They keep on building until they get final product. That is prototyping. Okay, you will initiate the project at this stage. You will initiate here. Then you capture the requirements here. Then you go with the performance and all the requirements. Coding is done. Then you develop the prototype instantly. You test it and again check the requirements, whether all the requirements are covered or do you need to modify any requirements. If the requirements are all covered, then it will go to production, just like a car. So car parts, car seat, if it's good, based on the angle, and they'll check if you might have seen some advertisements where you will have dummy person in a car and they'll try to crash it to see during accidents how will the car really impact, whether it will manage or it will break into pieces. So that's a testing they do. In order to do that, they build this prototype. It's called a prototype. Okay. In prototyping model, the developer will determine specifications of the client real needs. So here analysts are not there. The developers who is developing the actual product, they will reach out to our customers and get their requirements. What do you really want? Tell us. We'll try to make sure we develop it. So prototyping model will be much for smaller projects, where if you have large projects, you can't do it. It's very complicated. If you have hundreds of applications in the middle, how do you communicate with the customer without knowing like what is going to be in the output of the last application. So that is a challenge in prototyping model. Any questions? Tell me if I'm going too fast actually. This is another picture for the prototyping model. You come up with requirements, you develop a quick prototype, then you write specifications, verify, you're doing verification analysis here. Then specifications are good, requirements are good, then go to design. Okay. Now design, we verify again, everything looks good, then implement, develop it, test it, then again test it in your QA environment, then finally maintenance. In production, when you find bugs again, then you will identify if you find any defects. Okay, if you find any bugs, where is the bug? Is it a design bug? Then go fix the design. If it's a specification bug, go fix the specification bug. What is a specification? Specification are documents with all the technical information in it. If there is something that is not written properly, then that needs to be corrected, right? If you are saying you want to provide on hotels.com, if you want to provide star ratings, so we verify with ourselves within the team. We verify, the QA or anybody will verify whether that's accurate or not. We don't go outside. So you are developing a product application, software application within your group. So you don't verify with external people. You verify within the team. Then you figure out what needs to be corrected. Then develop the final product. Once the product is ready, it will push into production area here. And if you find any bugs there, you try to fix exactly that location where you have the bug. If the bug is not, and when you don't find any bugs, that means this is good. This particular prototype is good. Okay, so why we say prototyping? Because you developed a prototype first, so you go directly there, fix a particular specification here to get the correct prototype. Now the prototype 1 will be here, then if you fix it here, then again go through all this phase here like this in this order, then you will have a prototype at the bottom here. Prototype is a sample application, like how the application looks like. It's just an understanding, like how it's going to be laid out. So there are different types of prototyping, in the prototyping model. Number one, you're identifying basic requirements. Determine basic requirements. I won't go in detail, so I'll read the main steps. Identify basic requirements. Develop initial prototype. You review the requirements that are captured. Then you review the prototype also. Examine the prototype. Then you revise and enhance the prototype. You make it better. What are the advantages of prototyping model? It's reduced time and cost. Improved and increased user involvement. So if you, in prototyping, you will have in prototype 1, then you will show it to customer. Look at this. Is this what you wanted? He said no, then we'll go and fix it. He said yes, but make the small changes. We'll go and update them wherever it's required. Disadvantages, because developer is directly reaching out to the customer, there is insufficient analysis. User confusion of prototype and finished system. That means the customer might be confused, like what exactly he really wants. Based on he might have something on his mind and he might express it differently. We understand completely different. We develop some product, something else. So you might have used tax software, HR block, tax hack, like that. So in HR block, it's a software, you install it and you fill all your details, it will generate taxes for you. So in HR block, now they say, okay, I need to capture all the married filing joint returns in it, wife and husband, but they forget to add wife, some content somewhere in the middle, but they wanted it. but they didn't tell us exactly which forms what needs to be done. So some forms might not have the spouse information there. That is where you identify, when you really develop the product, that's when you test it, you identify that some of them might be missing. So customer might not explain all the details upfront because his expectation might be a little different. Now, while doing prototyping model, you create a prototype. So every time you create a prototype, that means you are spending money to create it. So that costs money. Like, just like car, you create it every time to test it. Once a test is done, it's useless. Go to another car, try to build exactly the same way, make sure it's tested properly. So that completes the prototyping model. Moving on to the agile methodology. So read all this content after the class. Agile methodology is very, very important. Reason, nowadays every other company is using agile model only. Most of them. Because we want to deliver fast, we don't want to put more money in the project. Less money, less time, more number of products. That's why it's called agile methodology. In agile methodology, you will have sprints. Sprints means a length of time. Like your week is 7 days. A sprint will be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So if there is a release, okay, we call it as a release cycle. So release cycle will be 3 months, for example. How many sprints there will? We will have. If a sprint is like each month, that means 4-week sprints. 3 sprints. That will complete 1 quarter. That is the release cycle. That means within that 3 months, we develop a product, we test, we do all kinds of activities. Then it will be ready for the production by end of 3 months. So you are setting time first and then building the product. That way you're accelerating your output. So if you tell me now, for example, if you tell me, okay, Varud, you cover all these topics within these 2 hours, that means you're setting a time for me. I don't know how much work there is left or how much I need to teach, but you are setting a time. That is, you're making me more efficient. You want to speed up the process. So remember this, sprint is a terminology is for the length of the certain number of days. If you have 2-week sprints, that means every 2 weeks there is a sprint. Means within those 2-week sprint, you need to code, test and deliver something to production every 2 weeks. If you have 3 weeks, it's the same story. Every 3 weeks, you need to have something ready. You might not have 100% perfect prototype readily available or 100% full product ready, but partial product. You'll have version 1, create application, you fill some information, some content in the application, then send it to production. Then in iteration 2, you do work over and capture other requirements, work on it, code, test, and then move it to production. That means bit by bits will be moving forward. But every sprint, whenever it's finished, you will have a update on the product. And this is for for time critical applications, we use agile models, and it's very disciplined. So by within this certain time you will finish certain. Every day in the morning there will be meetings in agile model. So everyone will come together, you literally stand, developer, tester, analyst, everyone will stand round like this, and each one will tell what they have done yesterday, what they are going to do today, and how much work can be done if there are any roadblocks or not. Roadblocks means if they are waiting for some document or some other information, that is a roadblock. Or suddenly environment is down, means that is database is down or application is down, that is they have to specify that in the Scrum meeting. So that will happen every day. If you have 2-week cycles, by end of 10 days, 10 business days, 2 weeks means Monday to Friday 5 days, another Monday to Friday is 5 days, so totally 10 business days. Within 10 business days you need to develop some version of the product. and deliver it to production. That is why Agile is very famous. Okay. So what are the different features within Agile model? We brainstorm within 1 or 2 days at the max, come up with design and prototype, development, QA, and then production. Straight. We are not taking too much time. Everything is like 1 or 2 days at the max. The max time that will be occurred, that will be used is in development and QA. So any questions, Hiral? So there are different types of methodologies within Agile. I don't want to go in detail, but just remember these. The common one is a Scrum methodology, which I told you just now. This is where you will have people standing together and have a meeting. And there is a feature-driven development, extreme programming, adaptive software development, like that. There are many more. I don't want to go in details. It's too much information. Okay? But Agile is very important. You might use it. So we have covered Agile, we have covered Scrum, and you see this sprint. First requirements are started, then it will go up suddenly, ramp up, then go down. Next, requirements are ready, design. Technical design documents will be ready, wireframes, prototypes will be ready, and it will go down. Again, coding will start. In requirements phase only, coding is also starting. Notice this. Coding is not starting here, coding is starting here. Well advanced. Now testing, it's not starting here, it's going to start here. In waterfall, what will happen? Tell me this, Hiral, what will happen in waterfall? If I have a line like this, straight line like this, what will happen in waterfall? Everything will go like this. Right? First we capture requirements, then design, then code, then test. But in Agile methodology, the moment the business analyst starts capturing the requirements, you immediately start with the design. So by doing that, you are able to finish the product in the middle of the test environment only. But this is, it will generally extend till here. So by the end of test environment, we'll have a product, because there might be some defects that need to be fixed. So somebody has to fix it. So it will go till the end. So this is a sprint. This might be 1 week, 2 week, or 3 week. Generally, it won't be 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, or 4 week sprints. This is another example, a picture which shows like, how is sprint defined. There are inputs for the sprint. Any changes, that means bugs or any change issues that need to be corrected, those are all will be tested again. Then finally you'll have a tested code. So in Agile methodology, Scrum framework is very important. In that, what are the roles? Product owner, Scrum master, team. So there won't be project manager in Scrum. There will be a Scrum master. Remember this. There won't be project manager. There will be Scrum master who will assign tasks to everybody. Typically, what will be the size of a team? 5 to 10 people. 1 developer, 2 testers, 1 Scrum master, 1 database analyst, like that. And cross-functional. That means, combination of all different teams. Everyone, what do we do in a Scrum meeting? We stand up and we discuss our, the content that we are going to test. So that day, by tomorrow, if you say that I'm going to cover testing for, these modules, like 100 test cases or something, next day they will ask why you were unable to test 100 test cases. You told yesterday that you will be able to complete it. That way, you are on the hook all the time. So if you have to meet that expectations, you have to do it. Okay, I don't want to go in too detail. Now coming to questions, do you have any questions on the models again before going to the quiz? Am I going too fast? I mean, am I covering the right pace for you, Hiral? I know you're not from IT background. I just want to make sure you understand all the concepts. Okay, tell me these questions for, I mean, answers for these questions. And don't worry if they are wrong. There is no right or wrong answer. This is only to make sure you learn. Software products are created through which model? Do we create software products using prototyping model? So pretty much all the models. Okay, there is no one model that we will use. We can use any of the model. It depends from environment by environment. If you are in a gaming, okay, you develop video games, that will be a prototyping model, but it comes under software industry also, so it can be any model. JAD sessions part of which model? You remember joint application design sessions I have mentioned. Which model is it a part of? It's part of RAD model. JAD sessions are part of RAD model, Rapid Application Development Model, where everyone will discuss, identify capture the requirements, fill the documents, then go with the testing, coding and testing. JAD sessions are very important. They clear a lot of doubts. You don't need to, one person might have one doubt, he will have to catch other person. So if everyone is in one room, the discussion will happen then and there. That will save time. The most old model of all these models is, which model is the oldest of all? That's correct. Waterfall is correct. Now, can you tell me what are hybrid models? I didn't explain this, but what are hybrid models? Hybrid models are a combination of 2 or 3 models, like waterfall and agile together, or waterfall and iterative together. So you might ask me a question like, how can that happen? Capturing requirements through waterfall, testing through other model. So it doesn't happen like that. You will have multiple projects. You might be working the same team, but one project will be using waterfall, other project will be using agile, some other project will be using prototype, like that. Those are hybrid models. But you're in the same organization, you're in the same company. Sprints, I just now mentioned, are a length of 2 weeks or 3 weeks or both. What is the actual length for a sprint? What can be the different sizes? Sprints are 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Okay, you're right, Iril. Now, finance domains, like when I say finance domains, financial companies like TD Ameritrade or E-Trade or banks, Bank of America, Chase Bank, what kind of model do they use? Finance models, I'll give you a simple tip. In finance models, everything will go very fast. What kind of model do we use? That's correct. Agile is the correct answer. Education in our universities, education departments will have what kind of model, like library information system or student information system, those kind of applications. What kind of model we will use, where we'll have a lot of time to do things? Budget, no problem. Time, no problem. Spiral will be fast. Spiral is always for complex projects. Waterfall is correct answer. So education universities, those are, education is the slow, that industry goes very slow. Wherever you go to college or anywhere, they don't constantly upgrade their applications or more, design new applications, they will use whatever application they have developed like 5 years back or 6 years back. They go very slowly. So then they generally do waterfall models. So that completes the session for all the different types of SDLC models that we started from yesterday. Do you have any questions? I see that, by asking you questions and by your responses, I see some improvement in your answers, and I'm happy. But at the same time, I'm sharing the documentation through in the folders. Read through the document before you come to class again, then that will help you more. So can I go ahead and continue with the week 2 day 2 class? Since we are doing a daily, let's go to the next then. Okay, if you're okay, there is again in this document we will have lot of content. So far we haven't looked at testing. First class we looked at model phases. Second class we looked at the importance of testing and different features there. Third, we talked about different models. Now we will go back to testing now. Now after going to testing, we are not coming out of it. We'll go deep into testing. So these are the topics that we'll be covered in this particular slide, in this particular PowerPoint presentation. We will cover defects and failures, input combinations and preconditions. I'll talk about each one of them. We will talk about testing methods, static versus dynamic testing, the box approach, white box, black box, gray box, what do they mean, how do you test them. Then you will go into different testing levels, which we talked so far. We have been discussing this, so it's again a revision of discussion of all the topics again: unit testing, integration testing, system user acceptance, pre-production and production testing. Now we'll talk the main thing we'll talk in this here is different types of testing. What do they mean? How you have to test one type of testing versus other type for the requirements that are captured. That will be covered in this class. Now overview. Defects and failures. Yesterday in other document, in other spreadsheet, other PowerPoint presentation, we have discussed about faults, failures, errors, defects. Now I'm getting back the defects and failures content here. Some of the few points that I want to highlight about defects and failures. Defect is also, you call it a bug also. Not all software defects are caused by coding errors. You have to understand this. So developers, they will create the code for the application. Doesn't mean that they do all the mistakes. Defects occur if either he forgets something or he doesn't do, coding is not done properly or business logic is not captured properly. That's when you raise a defect. But most of the time it doesn't mean that he has done something wrong. It might be due to environment, and if it's an environmental defect, if you have a database down or something, that's a database related defect. Documentation defects, like somebody might have forgot to input some of the key content in it, that will be a documentation defects like that. So you can have any types of defects. There are many of them. Anything can cause a fault or bug or defect, whatever you want to call it, but we will record each and every instance and assign it to the developers. Then developers will fix the code and then ask us to test again. Okay. What is input combinations and preconditions? We talked about test data. A fundamental problem with software testing is that testing under all combination of inputs and preconditions is not feasible. Okay, and that means you test login and password functionality for yahoo.com. Let's suppose you are trying to log into a mail company, to check to see if login and password are working fine. In passwords, you can use alpha, you can use alphanumeric. That means alphabets or numeric digits. But can you use only numbers as password? It should not take it, right? So that is not a valid test case. In certain cases, you want to decrypt the password. That means whatever password you type, it will be in stars. It will be showing as a star sign for each alphabet you type there. means that is crypted. Crypted means it's protected, so nobody can watch your password. So can you test whether what kind of password you have typed there? That means you're testing the security, you're breaking the security to test it, which is not good. So those are not testable. So what kind of scenarios you have to test, what kind of data you need to use is very critical for successful. So non-functional dimensions of quality like usability, scalability, performance, compatibility, reliability. So what do these words mean? Usability means the application should be very simple to use. Scalability means if you want to add any content, if you want to add one more page like that, it should support you. Okay, if you create a project, a website, and you can't add many web pages to it, what's the point? You want to increase it whenever you need it. That is scalability. Performance. Everything you want in matter of microseconds. That way your website will be constantly used by anybody. I'm taking an example of website here. It is also a software application. Compatibility. That means if you create a website here, it should be open and it should show all the content on the website like walmart.com or amazon.com. If you open in Internet Explorer, Firefox or Google Chrome or any other browser, it will still show the same content. That's how it should be designed. That is compatibility. Reliability. How much of reliability factor is involved there? How reliable is your site? If I use amazon.com, if I try to purchase some item from the site, can I be able to purchase it? How much reliable is it? With all our experience, we can say yes, it's 100% reliable because it's a very big company with a lot of technology involved there, and everything flows in a proper fashion. So many people buy on amazon.com every day. So it's reliable. Now economics. What is economics? If you remember yesterday's class, I mentioned that we do verification and validation. Verification means we look at the documents, we look at the design and say, oh, this is not good, this is not accurate, because you know that it's not. Okay, if for example, okay, on yahoomail.com, wherever you have login, you have a text area where you type your username. In password, it's not text area, but it's a radio button, like a select button. Okay, but you need to enter your password. That means it's not accurate. The design is not good. So that is a defect. But if you find a defect in design, like when they prepare these wireframes, in that they will capture the pictures, like how it is going to show up on the application. The moment you see that and you figure out that it's a bug, then the cost is little less rather than if you find the same bug in testing life cycle. So that is what economics that is involved here. Anything that we want to capture a bug late in the project life cycle, then the cost is also going to increase. Why will the cost increase? We need to include so many people, developers, QA, analysts, everyone should be involved. So whenever they are involved, they put time to it. They have to work on it. So they need time. That means we are giving money per hour. What are the different types of roles in QA that we can pursue? You can become a QA manager based on your experience. A test lead who can handle multiple testers under him, who can talk to project managers, get all information ready, environment ready. So lead will have bigger responsibility. He has to make sure everybody works properly and make sure the project is successful. You have test analyst or tester, which is one and the same, not much difference. Test designer. What is test designer? This particular guy will only write the test cases. He won't execute. He will only write test cases. He's good at it. Automation developer. That means you might use QTP or Selenium to do some automation. That's automation tester. Test administrator. So you will have so many tools like Quality Center, Quick Test Pro, Selenium. Somebody has to maintain it for everybody to use it and save all the test cases somewhere. that is done by the test administrator. So these are different types of roles. Testing methods. Yesterday we talked about verification and validation. We talked about static dynamic analysis. So static testing is nothing but verification. So Hiral, can you explain me what is verification? You can see the content here. What is a code review? In simple statement mention, what is a code review? Please, Hiral. I'll be happy if you can answer these. What is a code review? Code review is done by the developers. Developers will write the code and review with all the stakeholders, all the partners. That is a code review. What is a walkthrough then? Walkthrough of a document, walkthrough of test plan, walkthrough of test cases. Inspection. You are looking into the document and inspecting whether you have all the information there or not. Dynamic testing is also known as validation. In validation, you actually run the test cases. You execute the test cases and make sure the program is 100% complete or not. These are the two different types of testing methods. If anybody question you in the interview, what are the different types of testing methods? You need to mention this: verification and validation, and they can also be called as static and dynamic, testing. So before we go into the box approach, Hiral, do you have any questions? So what I'm planning to do is every day we will do like a 1 hour, 21 or 30 minutes like that, and 10-15 minutes I'll use it for questioning you so that you grasp all the content. I will go very slowly based on your time. So for box approach, can you do you want me to take a quick 5-minute break here and then continue again? Okay. Think about any questions that you want to ask. I don't want to go fast. I want to explain you as clearly as possible. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Are you there? Can I continue with the class? I actually unmuted you. If you want, you can unmute yourself and you can speak. Yeah, you have self-muted. Okay, I'm starting with the class now. Now we are going into, first we'll look at box approach. What is a box approach? What does it mean? Then we'll talk about different types of box testing. Black box testing. This is a common thing which everyone will ask you in the interview. Black box testing is just like you might have heard in the airlines. Okay, there is a box which is a black box. You don't know what's happening inside. All it does is record the flight conversation in the cockpit. So black box testing is like that. You don't know what's happening inside an application, but you test it from the outside. That means you give some, we'll take simple example of login and password concept. Okay, you enter a login ID, you enter a password, and you click login. That means after you click login, you get your email. But do you know what happens between your that login and the information after you get where you get the actual email itself? That is black box. What it does is the moment you click login, your data is sent to the application server. It will send to it will send to first web server, then it will go to application server, then it will go to web mail server, finally to the database and validate all in 1 or 2 seconds, and you'll get your email immediately. So that is black box. Now you're searching for hotel in hotels.com. What's happening behind? You don't know. That is black box testing. Okay, if you are a system tester or integration system tester, that means we are not worried about the code. All we want is, if I give this, will it give this back to me, a result, output. That is black box testing. It's a simple testing to make sure you're testing from a requirement standpoint. You don't know how the code is written, whether they wrote in Java or .NET or Ruby or Python or PHP, can be any code. What are the different types of testing methods in black box? There are many testing methods. So I don't want to go in detail. This is a complex information here, but for interview you need to read this and answer. So I'll go from a high level because I know this will definitely confuse you. So equivalence partitioning, I have given some examples like that. I did it for boundary value analysis. Do you want me to go through all this? I can explain, but I don't want you to get confused. Do you want me to go through each one of these testing methods, Hiral? So Madhavi is not well today. She has not joined the class. But if you want me to explain, okay. I can do it. Only I'm worried about is like it might confuse you. So equivalence partitioning. You are testing. Okay. Let's suppose you are buying a airline ticket. How many number of months you will put in the month field? Either you will put 1, 2, 3, or 4 till 12. You know there are only 12 months. You use one of the number. So anything that you test between that range is a valid scenario. That means it's a positive testing. And if anything below 1 means negative numbers, 0, -2, -1, those are negative scenarios. You can't even input -2 in a month. What is other invalid scenario? You can't put 13, 14, 15 because you know there are only 12 months. So equivalence partitioning is using the correct set of data that you know it's valid. Days, similar to days. You can't use 32, 33, 34 because you know there will be max of 31 days only, minimum of 1 day, right? So that is equivalence partition. Boundary value analysis means months. Again, at month you know the lowest boundary is 1 Means bottom one is 1, the maximum one at the top is 12. You can try testing 13, it won't work. You can try testing 11, it will work because it's in a valid range. Again, for 1, you can try above 1, which is 2, which will work for month. Below 1, it won't work. So that is boundary value testing. So you won't write test cases, all the test cases. You write only 4 test cases. You will write a month with 11, a month with 13, that's a negative scenario, a month with 0, a month with 2. So you are checking around the boundaries. That is boundary value testing. In 1 to 12, in equivalence partitioning, how many test cases will you write? You can write 12 different test cases because you know those are the valid ones. But will you write all of them? No. You can just write 1 or 2. That's optimal. Optimal means you use, no, I mean, don't put all possible scenarios. You have to use 1 or 2 here and there just to make sure. All pairs testing. That means, okay, this is like this. Simple example, if I can put it, you have a electricity switch button on your, in your room. You have 2 options only. One on, other is off. On or off. But if you have 2 switches, one is on, other one can be on, other one can be off. So how many combinations? 2 into 2, 4. Since you have one more switch, right? You have on, one combination, on, off, one combination, other combination, off, on, and off. Now what happens if you have 3 switches? You will have to come up with 3 different on. All 3 are on. On, off. Like that, if you do, you will get 8 scenarios here. 2 power cube. If you did maths, if you remember maths, this is the example. 2 power cube will be the answer here. Here it's 2 square combinations. This is all pairs testing. So you are using different combinations to create your test cases. How many test cases do I need to create is the question. Do I need to create 4, 5, 10? How many? This will drive you the formula. Okay. Decision tables. Again, decision tables is also similar to the on or off examples which I've used just now. I don't want to go into detail. Now use case testing is important. Let me explain you here. Use case testing is you will get use cases in this format like this picture here. You have to write test cases for each use case. You go to a restaurant, okay? It's a simple use case. You go to a restaurant, then you ask, order something. The waiter will take your order, get the food, give it to you, then you pay, eat it, pay the money, then leave, right? But if you look at it in terms of use case, there are so many things that are happening here. One, there are 3 different actors here. Okay, one is a waiter, one is a client who comes to the restaurant, one is a cashier. The client, everyone has their own agenda. They have, each one has their own, client orders food. Who takes the food order? Waiter. What does waiter do? Waiter serve food, and he also serve wine. Waiter, client pay for food. Who is going to take the payment? Waiter. Who accepts the payment? Cashier. And who is going to pay for the wine? Client. And who is going to take the payment? Cashier. Similarly, client will eat food, order food, eat food, order wine, drink wine. So he is doing, this guy is doing 2 or 3 or 4 actions, waiter is doing 4 or 5 actions, cashier is doing another 2 or 3 actions. So you will have different combinations of test cases. One test case will be make sure you order food and validate that the food is ordered. I'm giving an example. It's not the right test case though. And waiter should receive the order and get the take the payment from you. So like that you can break down into multiple test cases. That is called use case testing. Based on use cases, you write your test cases. And what is this kind of language that is used here? It's called Unified Modeling Language, or UML. This is very famous, Unified Modeling Language. Remember these for the interview. Okay, that's all here. Let's not go in detail. Now white box testing. Till now we have covered black box testing. That is any tester like you, me, anybody who work in a IT field in QA, we will use black box testing only. Who does white box testing? Developers. Anything you know the code, anything you want to fix the code and test there, unit testing, that is white box testing, because you know what is inside the code. And if there is any bug, you know what needs to be fixed. That is white box testing. There is another, now in white box testing there are some techniques which you need to know. While reviewing the code you can figure out whether there is an issue or not. But rest of the methods just read for your information only. Gray box testing. What is gray box testing? It is not black, it's not white, it's in the middle. So a tester who also knows the code can do the gray box testing. You test from without, as if you don't have knowledge of code. You test as if you also have knowledge of the code. So you go into the code and test the code also pieces. That is gray box testing. Between white and black there is a gray. Like that. Simple example in simple words. Okay. From now till the end of this complete presentation, I'll be covering each individual component here. The one highlighted in green here is the one that I'll be covering. Every time that color will change to move to a different box, and I will be talking about the definition of each content within that particular box. Now I'm starting with level of testing. These are all the different types of testing that you will ever see in your life if you work as a QA analyst or a lead. So there are different levels of testing. One is unit testing. Who does unit testing? Hiral, can you answer me the question? Who does unit testing? Or white box testing? Who does it? Developer. That's correct. Developers do the unit testing. Okay. Who does integration testing? Who does integration testing? Is it developers or testers? Integration testing is done by testers, because we are beyond the code now. The code is moved to QA environment and we are doing integration testing. Two different, you will have code for 2 or 3 applications. You are checking one place to another place, how the data is flowing. As I told you in hotels.com page, first page you enter the city and the date and time. Start date and end date. Second page you have some other content with all the hotels. That is 2 applications there. Like that. I mean, it's pages, but you might be getting content from 2 different applications. Integration testing is done by QA. This is the phase in software testing in which individual software modules are combined and tested as a group. It occurs after unit testing and before validation testing. Integration testing takes as its input modules that have been unit tested, groups them in larger aggregates. So I put all the different types of definitions there. You don't need to worry. simple way testing multiple applications together is integration testing done by testers. System testing. Who does the system testing or end-to-end testing? There are multiple systems involved or one or more systems are involved. Who does system testing? What kind of tester does it? A system tester will do a system testing or a regular QA resource. It is also called as end-to-end testing. Tests a complete integrated system, means multiple systems are interacting to verify that it meets the requirements. For example, a system test might involve testing a logon interface, then creating and editing an entry, plus sending or printing results, followed by summary, and then log off. See, you did 4 or 5 activities here. One, logging in, going in and adding some content, then finding the results, printing the results, and submitting the processing, followed by summary processing, and then log off. There you are doing multiple activities there. It might be from multiple systems. That is integrated testing. It's done by system testers or QA analysts or QA testers. You can call them also as with these names. User acceptance testing. Who does user acceptance testing? User acceptance testing is done by which users? Business users. Business people will test user acceptance testing. They do that. They write business requirements. Administrator won't do it. Well, test administrator is only, admin means is like a maintenance guy. It's like cashier. Cashier, what does cashier do? He'll take the money, put it in the box and give them change or whatever. Same thing, administrator will only maintain the application, maintain the quality center, maintain some other documents like that. He doesn't do any testing. Who does user acceptance testing? Business users will test it. There will be some business analyst or somebody, they will be doing that. Remember this. Pre-production or production testing. Who does pre-production or production testing? So any testing that occurs before and after the code is delivered to production is called pre-production or post-production testing. Who does it in production? There will be a separate team called production support team, PSS, or production support. Means they have access to all production data, production application. That's why it's called production testing. These are the different levels of testing that we do on a day-to-day basis. Next, time of testing. A time that you use to do certain type of testing, that will be discussed here. First one is alpha testing. In system testing, you do it with internal testers, that is alpha testing. Put it simpler way. Means you develop a website and you do it with your own testers, that is alpha testing or system testing. In system testing, you have multiple systems, one or more. Alpha can be one application, 2 applications, or any applications, but it's done by our own testers. Beta testing. That means once you're done with alpha testing, everything looks good, then let's give it to, sometimes you might have seen heard a word about beta testers. Beta testers means if a product is ready, 100% ready, okay, it is all ready, we fixed everything, but we wanted to see for few people, like 10 or 15 people, just test our website and make sure you find any bugs, let us know. That is beta testing. Here you are using external people to test our application. Beta will always come after alpha. What are the different approaches of testing? Just now we looked at black box, white box, gray box. So those are the 3 examples. Testing approaches is, one is white box, which is only developers will do it. White box testing. Black box testing, who is going to do it? QA tester or QA analyst. Gray box can be a QA tester because he knows the code, he will do gray box testing. Those are the different types of testing approaches. Method of execution. How many types of execution you can do? Test execution. One is manual. Manually, you write, when you write your test cases, you write simple statement: do this, do this, do this, do this in the same order. Manual, while doing manual testing, you follow the same order. Log into yahoo.com, then open your browser, your email inbox, then click compose, open the new window, enter the subject, enter the mail content, like that. That is all step-by-step order that will be written for manual testing. Automated testing. What is automated testing? This is where you use scripting. You use a code, JavaScript, VB script, Java, to do automated testing. Some of the common ones are QTP, Quick Test Pro from HP. Other one is with Selenium, automation testing through Selenium. Any questions so far? I will ask the questions tomorrow in tomorrow's class, all these different types of testing types. Testing after changes means defects validation. When do you test after changes? After the code goes into production, that's when you test. Make sure everything is good. That is called defects validation. If you have a defect, you test it, then you find that there is a defect, you raise it, assign it to developer. Developer will fix it. He will reply you back saying that now you have the code ready. Go and retest again. Testing after a change in the code is defects validation. Smoke testing. What is smoke testing? Just like smoke. Okay, if you put dry grass on sunlight, wherever the heat is more, it's gonna kickstart fire on the dry grass. Okay, and that is where you will get smoke from only one place, wherever the fire is lit. You don't get at all places. Like that, your application also, it might fail at certain places. Like if you type new numbers in the password for login area, it won't accept numbers, but there is no error message. What it has to do? It will fail. So like that, smoke testing is nothing but wherever you think that the chances of the application being failed, you will test it and make sure it's working. That is smoke testing. Knowingly or unknowingly, when you open an email account, you create username and password. So when you create password, you create with your right password, and you try to keep it. You won't try with numbers, but if you try next time, try with numbers. See what's going to happen. It should reject you. It should give you an error message. Sanity testing. Sanity testing is nothing but clean everything. Now the defects are fixed, we have retested it, but you want to test from high level if sanity is maintained. Means rest of the piece code is fine, rest of the application is fine. That is sanity testing. Risk-based testing means you don't have time, but you have to do a lot of test cases. You do only whichever is important, whichever is going to fail more. That is risk-based testing. Regression testing means, can you explain me the definition of regression testing, Hiral? What is a regression testing? Repeat again and again. That's perfect. I like your answers. Regression is repeat again and again, any number of times, as long as all the bugs are cleared. Now, what is the goal of testing? Different types of goals are there. One is functional. In functional, you have installation. Installation means you develop, Microsoft develops operating system, Windows 8, Windows 7, like that. So how do you get that? You get it in the form of CD. If you run the CD on your laptop, you should be able to install it on your machine. If it doesn't, then that means we are missing one file or other in the CD or DVD. So testing that to make sure your product has all the content needed is installation testing. Data integrity means don't worry about this in this one. You're just making sure your test data is good. Security testing. Security means making sure nobody can hack your application. You give your username and password is now alphanumeric, which is powerful, and you test to make sure it's not breaking. That's security. Business cycle. It's nothing but end-to-end testing from one end to another end. There might be many business applications or maybe one or two. Now till now we covered functional. Now non-functional means UI. UI means user interface. That means any application like this is a go to training web page. Okay, this is a user interface. I can see everything in here. That is user interface. If you go to Unix or something like that, you don't see that. That will be only the file names, background code only. That is not user interface. User interface, it's also called as graphical user interface, GUI. They'll ask you, can you test the GUI? Means GUI. Can you not test the GUI? GUI means graphical user interface. If you look at data in the database, it's not graphical user user interface. It's something else. Performance. We talked about performance. Many people on the same website for a long time. That will reduce the performance. It's just like a car. You drive a car for continuously for long distances. Eventually, the car, the life of the car will reduce. Continuously, if you travel, at a stage for like 5 to 600 miles every 1 or 2 days, like that, the performance will reduce. Just like that, if you have more number of users on this particular site, the performance will be reduced. Load testing. Load and stress here. Okay, load testing is again number of people. More number of people keep on increasing, not the time. Means we'll do only one time, but we want to increase people 25, 25, 25 like that. First you'll have 25, second you'll have 50, then you'll have next you'll have 75, next 100. Like that it will keep on increasing, and you make sure it's working fine or not. Even though if you have a lot of people. Healthcare.gov failed because this is one of the reasons. They might haven't tested properly. Stress testing. Stress. Anything that breaks at a certain point is stress. You listen to boundary value analysis. What is boundary value analysis? Lower, higher. So at higher stage, stress will be very high. It will fail at at a higher level. That is a stress testing. Failure and recovery. Recovery testing is an activity of testing. It is on how to recover a particular system from the crashes. Like your system, your laptop or your computer. Suddenly there is a shutdown in the electricity, and the laptop, there's no, let's say there's no enough battery charge, and it's going to turn off immediately. After you get back the electricity and you turn on your laptop, you need to see the same content you saw before. But what will you see? You will see, it's restarting and going to the main page. That means you are able to recover it. Anything, it failed, you are recovering it. It's going to start from the scratch again. That's called recovery testing. Usability testing. Usability testing is how easy for me it is easy for me to do some scenarios. Now Adobe Acrobat, this is the reader. It is very simple for me. What type of tool I need to use, all the content. This is usability for me. I can go to certain attachment. I can go and chat like that. It's all user in ability testing. Now there are different Positivity of scenario, what does it mean? I told you about months, 1 to 12, 12 months. Anything less than 1 is a negative testing. Anything greater than 12 is a negative testing. Between 1 and 12 is realistic and it's possible. That is positive test case. There is negative test case also. Anything you test below 1 is a negative test case. You know it's going to fail, but you still want to test it. That means that is negative test case. You're coming in a reverse direction. So that covers all different types of testing so far. In interview, they will ask all these questions. So far, Hiral, I didn't expect to complete all the day 2 content here today, but luckily we could complete and we could progress much faster. Tomorrow, what I will do is I'm going to ask you questions. From yesterday's training, I couldn't upload the video. There was some error in the recording, so I'll try to re-record or fix it. But today's session, I will put it on our portal, and you should be able to view it. Tomorrow, the first thing I will do is ask you questions on all different types of testing. Once we are done, then we will start with our test plan directly. All practical from now on. No more theoretical. We will directly write test plan. We will write test cases after that, and then we'll put it on quality center. Sounds like a good idea? Are you okay with that? Or do you want me to go a little slow? Because Mihir wanted to complete manual testing as soon as possible, and ask me any questions. I know he can also explain you if you have any questions, but reach out to me and let me know. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you questions on different types of testing, and I think Madhavi will be there. We'll see, but I'll focus on you. So are we good for today, Hiral? I'll meet you again tomorrow, same time at 8 o'clock. Okay then. We will call it, and yeah, I'll see you at 8 o'clock. Thank you. Good night.